Well, the first woman to run a Fortune 500 company was Katharine Graham. She became the chief executive officer of the Washington Post in 1972, almost 50 years ago. And women have just started to zoom up through the hole in that glass ceiling, haven't they? In the Fortune 500 as of May this year, a whopping 24 women were CEOs, compared to a mere 476 men. 24. That's 4.8%. And it's almost as many as there were in 2017, when we broke the record for female CEOs with 32. So if we can just keep losing 8 every year, like we did last year, we can be back to 0 by 2022, exactly 50 years after Katharine Graham. Then there'll be nowhere to go but up, right? I know. Actually, it's awful. And the question is, why? Obviously, something in corporate culture is at play here. Companies say they actively support women and have internal women's groups. But do they fund that group? Is it more than networking events and breakfasts and happy hours? Do executives sponsor the group and approve bringing in thought leaders and talents in their field? Or do they just talk a good game? Yep, we have a women's group, lean in, but they don't do anything to advance its purpose. So clearly, in corporate culture, for a woman to run the show is for her to be outside the box. But what is the box? Isn't it just a set of expectations for women's behavior and a fear of what happens when they defy that? And this goes back a long way, back into mythological archetypes. In Greek myth, Pandora was the first human being created by the gods out of earth, and she was given gifts by each god and goddess of Olympus. The gifts were human traits, both good and evil, to give her a full 360-degree personality. In the original story, Pandora kept these gifts in a jar. Now, Erasmus, who was an early translator, he confused the Greek word for jar with the word for box, which is not a big deal, but it just goes to show you can't let a man tell a woman's story because they just get stuff wrong. But whether it's a box or a jar, the real issue is, what happens when Pandora opens it and releases her gifts into the world? All hell breaks loose, right? Well, I'm not the first woman to observe that corporate America, this castle of patriarchy, could use a little hell breaking loose. This country's boardrooms are in dire need of disruption. And what women are holding back, and the gifts we're not giving, and the box we're keeping that tight lid on, that disruption can turn a company on its ear. In one famous study, firms that were led by women, and that's with female CEOs, in 44% of the 25 companies with the highest percentage of female leaders earned more than twice the rate of return on revenue and more than 5% greater equity than the 400 largest publicly traded companies in the study. Right? But you know what? Oh, that's boring. I mean, we already know that, right? We know that firms that are led by women perform at that high level. But again, why? I'd like to suggest it's not just the women running the place, it's the place. It's the culture of companies that allow women not to just think, but to act outside the box. And this is where our own personal accountability comes in, because the box isn't just others' opinions of how we should act. It's our own opinion of how we should be at work. You see, we all have a personality box, and most of us only let our colleagues see the outside of it. We dress it up nicely and keep it clean and shiny. But the truth is, sometimes we let people sit on it or push it into a corner. And you can think of this as the box where we put all that stuff that adults, especially our parents, discouraged in us when we were growing up. Sometimes we'd get scolded for expressions of ourself, our strong opinions, our deep desires, our rule breaking. And we'd put all that stuff into a box. What would happen if we let that out at work? All 360 degrees of us, would there be terrible consequences? And you know what? Unfortunately, in a lot of companies, that fear is not unfounded. And women, we get these messages every day in subtle ways. You're in over your head. You're out of your league. You're being too emotional. Well, you know what? Lean in is just the tip of the iceberg. What's under the surface, what's hidden, what's latent and lurking that we've kept in that box, that's where the real power, the real impact, the true influence is. To claim it, though, means that we need to ditch this idea of who we have to be at work. So yeah, what I'm saying is, stop being yourself, right? And I know I'm saying this in an age when authenticity is prized in people, in communication, in brands. But what I'm saying is, hidden inside that idea of who you have to be, there are many other yous in there. And maybe you look at them and some of them seem like weaknesses or parts of you that you haven't developed yet. Some of them you just don't let out at work. For instance, if you're a parent, right? How did you react the last time your teenager didn't do that thing you asked him to do time and time and time again, right? If you're a sports fan, how fierce is your team spirit and loyalty when it's in full expression? If you're a singer, is there a you that sings along at the top of her lungs with Mary J. Blige on the drive into work? But when you get there, where does that you go? Do you stuff her into a backpack and put her over your shoulder with all those other selves hanging off? And when you get in there and you go to get your laptop or your lunch later, it's so easy for the joy of that sing-along you to stay stuffed inside. Several months ago, I was at a conference, and I'm walking down this big convention hallway with a woman, and she was having a really bad day, and I wanted to cheer her up. So I thought, I know, I'll just break into song and start belting out the Beach Boys. And I did. And she laughed and thought it was funny, which is what I wanted. But what was interesting to me were other people's reactions. Some people acted like they couldn't see me. Are you kidding? I'm 6 feet tall singing the Beach Boys. Of course you see me. Some people, I like you all. Some people acted like they shouldn't see me, right? And they were like, oh, nice job, yeah, good, right? But one woman, she walked right up to me and she said, wow, Barb, I never knew you could sing like that. You need to do that more often. You need to do that more often. Wouldn't it be nice if we were older and we didn't have to wait so long? And wouldn't it be nice to live together in the kind of world where we belong? Oh, wouldn't it be nice? Thank you. Thank you. Let's go hang out or something, okay? But that is definitely a self that doesn't come out at work very often, okay? And I'm not saying we have to be rock stars, but what is my voice? That's the question. Regardless of who you think you have to be at work and who you feel you are at work, the opposite is probably true as well. Maybe you're not outspoken and aggressive, but you feel like you need to be to have your voice be heard. And maybe you are assertive and extremely direct, but not at work, because those aren't qualities that are supported in women. Stop being yourself. When we use all 360 degrees of our personality, it resonates with more people That inclusion is magnetic, drawing people to us. We can get more done with less pushback. We can be unstoppable by other people anyway. It's up to you. You can stop that default to your old self. You can unscrew the lid to the jar and pop the box top. Come on, Pandoras, open it up. Yeah? You know what? And if we are Pandoras, let's not forget that what's in that box are divine gifts. The most ancient images of Pandora are of a powerful woman rising up from the earth with her hands stretched up to the heavens. And this is Pandora, the all-giver, not just the all-gifted. What would it be like to give it all at work, all of you? Wouldn't it be nice? And if all of this just seems like vague encouragement that's not really actionable and you wouldn't even know where to start, maybe it would help not to think of it as you, but think of it in the third person as her, as that amazing woman. The woman who's your best friend, your biggest fan, the woman who has your back. Because you've been carrying her around there since you were little. She's the woman who you know with all your heart, if she were running the place, it would be so much better. Right? Isn't it time you let her out with all of her passion and excitement, her experience and her vision, and let her go after this job and the next and the next? It's all there in her. And who is she anyway? You know, that's a question we can ask and answer every day. Because beneath this persona that we put on to navigate male power structures and inside this mannered, boxed self is that amazing woman. Give her room. Value her uniqueness. And what about your little hers? Your daughters, your sisters, your nieces, the little girls in your neighborhood. Start now. Help them grow into independent, strong, and confident young women that value all of their true hers. And let them know that all of their hers are wonderful and valuable, all of them. Build the bridge. Help women of all ages, of all faiths, of all ethnicities. Because when we care about each other, maybe we can work together to get her. To the place where she truly belongs. And where is that? Into the big chair. Oh, wouldn't it be nice? Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.